Everybody, I have a video here for you today, and we are going to cover some ancient news stories. And sometimes those are videos I like watching as current things that have been discovered or things that are in the news. And I know Matt at Ancient Architects and Lost History Channel and a few other ones do reports on ancient news stories, and I think it's important. So I think every Monday I'm just going to do one video where I cover a lot of stories. And today we're going to go down to Wrangel Island. And in my last ancient history video, I talked about an island right up there to the northwest. But this is a story that has been in the news for a while. Maybe some of you haven't heard of it, but there was a mammoth found here, a smaller mammoth. But the thing about it was only 4,000 years old. Now, I'm just going to read parts of these news stories, and I'm going to leave all the links below if you want to check into these further. Let's just read briefly here. There is the location of Wrangel Island, northwest of Alaska. It says some 4,000 years ago, a tiny population of woolly mammoths died out on Wrangel Island, a remote Arctic refuge off the coast of Siberia. They may have been their last of their kind anywhere on Earth. To learn about the plight of these giant creatures and the forces that contributed to their extinction, scientists have resurrected Wrangel Island's mammoths' mutated genes. The goal of the project was to study whether the genes function normally. They did not. So I will leave the link for this below, and I know there's been other stories on this, so if you have anything to add, please do. Let's move on. Next story, we are going down to Arizona, and I know this one will just cheer some of you right up. It's called Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. I will leave all these links below. It says the contractor that is building Donald Trump's border wall in southwestern Arizona began blasting this week through a site that the Native American Odom people consider sacred to make way for newer, taller barriers. And I'm not going to get too opinionated here. I'm just going to report the news. U.S. Customs and Border Protection confirmed the contractor started blasting through the site called Monument Hill at Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument west of Lukeville in preparation for new border wall system construction within the Roosevelt Reservation. It says Customs and Border Protection will continue to have an environmental monitor present during these activities, as well as ongoing clearing activities. Monument Hill is one of several sites of archaeological and cultural significance. So that is unfortunate. I'm sure there'll be a few comments on that. Next story, let's go down to Monk's Mound at Cahokia here. This is the largest ancient mound we have in the United States. Now, I've been asked why it is called Monk's Mound, and I believe in the 17th century there were some French monks living in this area, and their name got attached to the mound. I think that's about the best I can do, if memory serves me correct. Now, here is Science Alert, and I think this story got covered in a few different areas, and I know I read something about this about a year ago, so maybe they are just updating their research, but it says, we might have been wrong about the mysterious lost civilization of Cahokia. It says, today, no one knows what happened to it. Tens of thousands of its inhabitants are merely said to have disappeared, leaving behind their giant earthen mound spread across 13 square kilometers. By the mid-1300s, long before white settlers arrived on the continent, archaeologists say it was virtually abandoned. A fresh analysis of ancient human feces has now weaved a wholly different story. The Cahokia area, it reveals, was only forsaken briefly. By the time Columbus sailed, the ocean blue, the metropolis, which was located in modern-day Illinois near what is now St. Louis, was already being repopulated, and by 1650 the number of its residents had surged to a whole new high. So it seems a lot of the stories we get are wrong or need to be redone or need to be looked at again. Or maybe we just got a whole lot of BS. It says here in a previous study using ancient poop samples published last year, so that's probably what I was remembering, White found evidence of droughts and floods that might have contributed to Cahokia's fluctuating population in the 1300s. It ends here disappearing completely is another matter through warfare, disease, removal, environmental change, and political upheaval. Cahokia might have persisted for much longer than we thought. Well, I thought that was interesting. Let's move on here. Next story comes from Italy in the Tuscany region. Let's just read. This is ZME Science. It says, trade was thriving in Neolithic Italy, isotope study shows. In recent years, archaeological evidence has shown that ancient communities weren't the isolated groups we once thought them to be. A new study further confirms this, showing that ancient Italians went to great lengths to import and export their goods. It says mining and smelting were vital activities in Neolithic Italy. In particular, was home to a complex network of metalwork exchange, according to a new study. Researchers analyzed 20 copper items, including axe heads and daggers coming from archaeological sites, dating them and studying their isotopic makeup. This makeup is essentially a chemical signature that can be traced to their source. Comparing the archaeological data with the chemical signatures, researchers found that most of the items were cast with copper mined in Tuscany, a region in central Italy. From Tuscany, these items spread as far as the Alps, indicating a thriving and very active trade system. Other items came from the Western Alps and possibly from French Midi, an area in southern France. It's remarkable that as far as 6,000 years ago, people were trading across such large distances. The first systematic application of lead isotope analysis to copper-age metal objects from central Italy from 3600 BC to 2200 BC has shed new light on the provenance of copper used to cast them, the study reads. So I find that pretty interesting. These are some of the items that have been traced back to the Neolithic age, the time we are starting to learn more and more about. But I will leave the link below. Let's move on. Next story, we're going to go down to Russia. There were some burials here that were pretty interesting. This is the Voronezh, Russia region. Let's just read. This story came out last month. Russian archaeologists uncover rare Amazon warrior women burial. And I guess that is the name they attached to a woman with a kind of a warrior headdress. Archaeologists have for the first time discovered 3 generations of ancient Amazon women warriors buried in a single tomb around 2,500 years ago in present-day Russia. Experts say the woman warriors, who belonged to a nomadic people that dominated Eurasia called Scythians, may have inspired the Amazons depicted in Greek mythology. A Russian Academy of Science expedition in the past decade uncovered the graves of 11 Scythian Amazons in southwestern Russia. Here is what they found. In one grave site, they found a 12-year-old, early 20s, and a mid-30s victim, 3 different age groups in one grave. Now, I'm not sure if there's a better name we can come up for these women that were buried here, but based on the remains and the thing found on their head, this is what they theorize it looked like right here. It says the 30 to 35-year-old Scythian warrior was buried alongside a bronze mirror, 2 spears, and a glass bead bracelet. She was buried in a pose called the horseman, with her legs positioned like she's on a horseback. Pretty interesting story here, but it also says 30 iron arrowheads, iron knives, as well as pieces of horse harnesses and horse bridle hooks were found here. So that is my story from Russia, along with 4 other ancient news reports. The wide world of ancient history news. Hope you thought that was interesting. You all have a very nice day.